So one of the things that people were saying is that when Elon was on the earnings call, some of my folks and friends said that we didn't want him there, but actually his discussion and prediction of the future of what's going to happen to Tesla, it does end up. And so I think that's what we're seeing now. In the next month, we're starting to see people realize that everything that Tesla's or Elon is saying is going to come true. What do you think, Randy?
Yeah, so there's always been this issue with Elon, coming on and talking in broad generalities and talking about even being super honest about where the economy is or where the stock might where the numbers might be lower, he said this time. And the stock goes down now. Most of that stock decrease on Thursday had nothing to do with Tesla. It was the overall market and the reset on the NASDAQ, whatnot. But it would have been down anyway. It would have been down 10 or 11 points on Thursday, but all of a sudden it pops back up. And it does this every time. And I submit that the reason is it takes a couple of days for the average investor out there, or even the non-average investor, to get what Elon said, to see people like you and me talk about what was said and why it was important. And those broad ideas about where we're headed in the future, this is what Elon is all about. This is his greatest gift, is vision casting. And that's what he did last Thursday. He vision casted and said, this is where we're going in the future. And now they're getting it today. And the stock disconnected again from the NASDAQ, disconnected from the S&P, and went on its own ride up 3.5 points. And I think we'll see a continuation of this in the days and weeks ahead.
Yeah. So one of the things you were just telling me was that you see a number of factors that are changing all in a row, all coming together at the same time. So why don't you give me that list of things that are completely changing in terms of the views of different people, or even just the metrics that Tesla's hitting?
Yeah, so I've maintained for a long time, starting months and months ago, that the Tesla can only go so far unless the market also goes too. You've got to have both. If the market is still risk off, if the market is still just inching along, going up in a nice first leg of the bull, you're going to get some advance by Tesla. But in order to get back to, we talked about this in the green room before we started today, Tesla in November should be at 820 if the market is strong. Why? Because the last time when the market was strong on November 3rd of 2021, and Tesla was strong and the narrative was strong, the stock was at 410. Well, in November, Tesla's earnings will be double and Tesla's sales will be double, and they will have added Optimus as an entire new subject matter, and now licensing as a new subject matter that didn't even exist back then. So technically, theoretically, Tesla should be double at 820 just based on the fundamentals alone, if the stock market was in the same attitude or same thinking as it was back then. So what I'm seeing right now is a shift in the attitude in the general market about the economy. I think that the market is looking past interest rates. They're looking past the inflation issue. They're beginning to look at the economy as a whole. And what they're seeing is a nice, soft continuation, maybe 1%, 1.5%, 2% GDP increase. Not a lot of craziness on the upside and nothing on the downside. And that is going to work out really, really well. They're seeing that maybe auto sales will start increasing because the fleet is so old. And these are things that we don't have to tell them. They can see it themselves. We don't have to, it's not like the Tesla stuff where we have to beat them to death to get them to see it. No, they've got those stats in front of them. And I think the institutional investor is saying, nope, time for the second leg. Time for the money market funds, the $5.2 trillion all-time record by a lot of money that's sitting on the sidelines, to start coming back in and start boistering up some of the beaten down stocks. Definitely going to go more into the tech stocks. And Tesla, I think, will be the big winner from a lot of that cash that's going to come in from the sidelines.
Right. And then you were saying earlier that you're now seeing the street recognizing Tesla's continued deliveries in production, their earnings, their execution. And I have been hearing more and more, his CNBC broadcasters talking about Tesla as an AI company, Tesla as an energy company. So they're now saying these words. That's one of the reasons why I actually love it when Elon is on these earnings calls. I was saying that, his job is to communicate to investors, both the retail investor and the institutional investors. And he changes, when somebody says, why are you sacrificing margin in lieu of volume? He answers back, well, because if FSD and autonomy, when that comes, we're going to make more money with more cars out there. And so he flipped it and said, think future, think about what we're working on. It's the stories about autonomy and robotaxi. The first three questions on the earnings call last week were all about autonomy and robotaxi. So it is working. We're starting to see people talking about it, right? And so even though it's not here yet, and some people will say they're talking about it. So what about the capitulation of the auto industry? Why don't you give me a summary of all the things you think that has happened that you think that it's already happened or people are aware that it's happening?
Yeah, so you start looking at the earnings of Tesla after all the price cuts, and you're looking at they're still at 17% margins, which is way more than any other auto company out there. And then you look at some of the other numbers that are coming in where every other EV company is losing money, or BYD is making a little tiny bit of money, but the margins are nowhere close. And then you see that what's happening, all kinds of BEV vehicles are piling up in parking lots, except for Tesla automobiles, which are still at the highest margins of anybody, and those are selling, and those are moving off the lot. So it shows that Elon's concept worked. And pretty soon the street begins to go, oh my gosh, it is working. And we can count on this guy. He is doing it over and over and over again. So now what is he saying? Oh, he's saying that they're going to, build another 600,000 more cars next year and be at 3.5, 2.5 million. And then the year after that, it'll be 3.2, et cetera. Oh, maybe we should pay attention to those numbers. And maybe we should pay attention to the other things that he's saying about the future, because he just keeps being right. The big capitulation, of course, is the CEOs of the various car companies are all saying, no, we're no longer chasing Tesla. We're giving up on the ideas that we're going to equal or beat Tesla in the BEV market. What we're looking at now is they don't say this out loud. We're looking for second place or third place. It's not possible to beat Tesla. So therefore, we need to use their charging stations. Maybe we need to use their FSD system. And then Larry Goldberg said on Friday, he said, look, why would they only take FSD? Why wouldn't Ford be looking at taking the entire operating system, eliminating 160 vendors, and use the software package from Tesla in its entirety, which would be cheaper, less vendors, and better? Why wouldn't they do that? So that kind of stuff is brand new. And I think that's going to be considered by a lot of companies out there that are not even be able to do over-the-air update after years and years of trying, not working, that their software systems are not anywhere close to equaling Tesla. This capitulation is a whole nother level compared to what we've seen so far.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that. Right, when you hear a legacy major auto OEM start talking to Tesla about licensing something, in this case, he let out of the bag the FSD. What it does is that it doesn't almost matter if they end up doing, which they will. They'll all fall and do it, but it strengthens Tesla's position, because the funny thing is there are seriously people who really think that Tesla is not a great car, not a serious competitor out there, which is weird for us, right? Because we know that they're the best, but there are people out there who just don't realize that, like the general public, right? And now when they hear, oh, Ford is partnering with Tesla for the supercharger, then they realize maybe Tesla is equal or better than Ford, and then it starts to happen, right?
Yeah, so their revenues and their profits are already fifth out of all car companies, even though their numbers are, not fifth, but their revenues and profits are already fifth. And at the current rate of improvement that they're going just on the car, just the Sexy plus the new Cybertruck, they will be number one in revenue and profits within 2 years, just on the strength of the car company.